Do you have memories from your childhood that you wish you could replay? You know, the fun things you did and the places you visited. I do. Growing up, I lived in the southeast of England in a very beautiful part of the country. Everything back then was better and bigger. Summers were longer and blackberries were juicier. My name is Ian Currey and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. Long, long ago, when I was a little boy, we used to go for a walk from the small town we lived in out into the countryside. It seemed far. We had the hill to climb out of the valley, past the cottage hospital on the top of the hill, and down the other side until we reached the crossroads. Miles. Well, I say miles, but these were small boy miles. Well, and I say crossroads, but it was really where the road from our town met the main road that went to places people actually had heard of and knew existed. Turn left and you'd eventually get to Tunbridge. Too far to walk, but somewhere people went if big shopping needed to be done. If you turn right, you'd end up in Crawley, near Gatwick Airport. But back then, the airport was close to Crawley, not the other way round. There was a straight on at the junction too that headed to a tiny place called Cowden. But there was nothing there except a small church with a tin roof. Well, there was a railway station too. I think that happened because the line happened to pass by on its way from Edenbridge and Hever to the middle of nowhere. There must have been enough houses around for someone to say, I know, let's plant a railway station right here and see what happens. Remarkably, after well over 100 years, the station is still open, despite only about 100 or so passengers using it each day. Quite where they come from is a bit of a mystery, but open it stays. Cowden Station even managed to make the news not too long ago, when a herd of cows escaped from their field and appeared to be waiting for a train to take them on holidays or something. I think there was a proper road to get to Cowden too. There was a bus that went there. But walking, the quickest way was straight on from the crossroad. The road was really nothing more than a cart path, not very wide at all, and each side there were huge prickly bushes. Those bushes were the reason we walked that way. Blackberries. Lovely. On hot sunny days, we'd collect our buckets and baskets, find our bags, and off we'd go. We'd pack sandwiches for a picnic, which were mostly eaten before we got where we were going, but we'd eat as many blackberries as we liked and get into a glorious mess doing so. Those buckets and baskets would return home full for Mum to make jam and pies to be shared with neighbours and friends. I still love blackberry jam, and whenever I eat it, think of the Roman road between Edenbridge and Cowden. The crossroads had an official name, even though one of the roads, our blackberry picking road, was just a dirt track. Den Cross. Den Cross sounds very important, but you could walk through it without knowing you had. This week, right outside our house, a fleet of lorries and very interesting machines showed up. Our street is being given a new surface. I don't think the old one was bad. I mean, I knew where all the potholes were, and knew to drive away from the edge when it rained. What fun though. First, the old surface has to be removed. That's done by a wonderful looking machine that's probably a lot of fun to drive. I did ask, but the men operating it thought I was joking and said things like, more than my job's worth, and things like that. Back when I was a small boy, such machines hadn't been invented, but nevertheless, the Roman road, that presumably managed quite nicely without a tarmac surface for 2,000 years, got one anyway. First, a fence was put up to stop people getting hurt. Then I think the farmer put up another fence, perhaps to keep his cows from riding trains or something. But worst of all, to get the digger and the steamroller in there, the blackberry bushes had to be cut down. You can still visit. The long walk really wouldn't take grown-up people more than half an hour or so. It's a pleasant enough stroll. But it's not the same without the brambles and the stone road surface. There are still fields with hedges, and I'm sure the blackberry bushes have grown back. They do that. But it's not the same at all anymore. Growing up, we would occasionally visit the little church with the tin roof in Cowden. That was the first place I learned to put wax crayons on top of the stove and watch the crayons melt. We'd hear a lot about narrow ways and broad ways in church, and how difficult the narrow way would be if we choose to take it. Now, I didn't understand that at all. The narrow way was full of brambles and nettles for sure, but there were also blackberries. And a sting or two just meant you learned which were the dock leaves. I'm grown up, and one of these days, on one of those Gatwick layovers, I'll have to go and see if I remember things the way they really were. It won't be the same, I'm sure. Paving the lane was daft. Okay, so it made it easier for the half-dozen cars that used it each week, but now they could go so much faster that it wouldn't be safe for small children to pick blackberries. This is what the Lord says. Stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the old, godly way and walk in it. Travel its path and you will find rest for your souls. And you reply, no, that's not the road we want. Let's tarmac it instead. Let's cover the narrow road with a tidy coat. Let's add safety fences and make sure children stay off it so they don't get run over. And if you want to go down the Roman road these days, you'll need a reliable car. Can't have people wandering around all over the place. We can teach you how to drive and show you the rules that you'll have to know to pass the test to be allowed to drive. Stopping along the way to pick berries or eat sandwiches in the fields with the cows, you'll get your clothes dirty. So we don't do that. It's frowned on. And besides, we don't know what pesticides might have been on those berries. You should get your berries from the farm shop. Take them home and wash them first. Nettles? No, all gone. Why would you want those here? Well, now, a nice clean road to Cowden. You do know there's a train and a bus that go there, don't you? And if you must walk, there's a footpath that runs alongside the main road. All too often the narrow road is painted as the hard road, the way people don't want to go. I'm looking at things a little askance, I know, but I do wonder if by adding rules and expectations to the narrow road, we somehow spoil it. The old Roman road at Den Cross, dating back to the time of Christ and beyond, has a few parallels to our biblical narrow road. Matthew reports Jesus talking about the gateway to life is very narrow and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it. I do note that in this instance it says few ever find it, not few ever choose it. If you actually found the old Roman road, at least when it was the way it was before it got fixed, you'd choose it. Finding it in the first place is the problem. When we do find the narrow way, what a shame that the charm of its simplicity, the rocks, the nettles and all, and especially the blackberries and cow pastures, those messy places to eat our sandwiches, have been so sanitized and cleaned up. The add-ons to the original don't make it more attractive. The suit and tie, the right way of getting to Cowden quickly and safely, just makes the journey so very unattractive. I mean, why would you want to go to Cowden if there aren't blackberries and cows to share lunch with? And even if I did find the road the way it is now, I don't think I'd bother walking that way. That would be like going to church and not being allowed to put wax crayons on the stove. Until next time, goodbye.